leftists have practically ruined the word liberal. So there has been a long debate the last few years of what fascism means. And some people don't know what it means. And I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of history behind fascism.
How would you define what fascism is? I don't know.
Okay.
How would you define fascism?
It's not an easy thing to define.
How would you define fascism?
I don't really want to get into all of that history and
Does
stuff.
that mean you can't define it, though?
I don't want to talk about it right now.
You could probably twist it to fit your narrative one way or another. Wikipedia recently defined fascism as an alt-right movement, and it might be one of the first things you actually see when you Google the word fascism. But it's actually much more fluid than alt-right, depending on who you're studying. Fascism, though, is suppression by force, which can be done by literally any party. It does not have to be an alt-right party or an extreme left party. It really could be done by anybody. If you only look at fascists like Mussolini or Adolf Hitler, you could maybe twist it into saying that fascism is a socialist ideology. But it really just depends on who you're studying, but that would be misleading as well. So there has been alt-right fascism as well, as seen in Portugal. I think his name was Salazar. Yeah. So we could use the democratic organization, the KKK, as an example of fascism. And that was a democratic organization back in the 30s. And there still is KKK members now, but they're at their lowest population, so we don't have to worry about them too much. But fascism does not need to be defined by a political party. I understand that there are some differences in how people use the word fascism, but what they did, all these different parties did, were very much the same, and they used totalitarianism, violence, and suppression, whatever movement we're talking about. And that's why I call the left fascists, because they are totalitarianists. They are folks who love suppression, love censorship, and they're violent. Even the group known as anti-fascists, Antifa, I mean, they have a lot of relatable fascist characteristics. So we got here Gina Morina. She got dropped by her agency, UTSA, and is known for her role in Disney's Mandalorian. Star Wars spinoff, never seen it. She tweeted a photo of Jews being chased by Nazis. She actually reposted it on her Instagram. And it was a post that pretty much compared what we're seeing now with Nazi Germany. The caption does not really mention political party, but you can kind of understand who it is about. Plus, she is a conservative, so obviously we kind of assume who she's talking about. But it does say that Germans were taught to hate their neighbor simply for being Jewish, and compares that to how in today's world people hate their neighbor for simply voting differently or having like a different political opinion. Now, in her defense, my last video was about a woman. She wrote an anecdotal column piece about how her neighbors who are Trump supporters plowed her driveway very well and compared them to Nazis. Literally compared them twice to Nazis and, I believe, an Islamic terrorist. Gave no input on real life occurrences that she might have had with this neighbor that would have made him seem like a racist Nazi. The only information she gave us was that he was a Trump supporter. That's all. So maybe Gina has something here. Now, I am not huge on comparing the murder of millions of Jewish and Polish people to really anything that's going on currently in our political atmosphere. I think that's a little crass. But I will say her post specifically was talking about the beginning of the rise of Nazism. Alright, so this is the post that Gina Morina shared that got all these leftists and big tech and mainstream media offended. It says, Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers but by their neighbors, even by children. And in quotes it says, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? So it looks like she didn't write this. She just shared it. I mean, like I said, I'm really not into comparing what happened in Nazi Germany to what's happening now, because I think, like I said, it's a little arrogant, and I've been hearing that rhetoric for 5 years, and I've thought it was kind of ridiculous. But this does make a good point. She's not comparing leftists to Nazi soldiers. She's comparing the political atmosphere right now that's happening, which we see with our own eyes every day. Like I mentioned before, the article written earlier this week about the Nazi snowplow driver and the crazy leftist neighbor. So she might kind of have a point here. So to me, it seems like the leftist mob got extremely offended after getting a literal taste of their own medicine. I mean, how many celebrities and journalists and mainstream media oligarchies have used this exact same rhetoric against conservatives? So it looks like this is not the first time Gina has been under fire for her views. It looks like back in November, she had posted boop bop beep, or it looks like in September. So you know how for some reason people feel it's necessary to virtue signal in every single way possible. So very obviously gendered folks will put their gender in their bio because they think they're being so virtuous. So for me, I'm a girl. I identify as a girl. So it'd be, to me, my opinion is it's kind of silly to put her and she in my bio. I'm obviously a girl. I don't identify as anything else. And some people think it's ridiculous. Okay, that's an opinion. So Gina wrote her gender pronouns, boop bop beep. Now, of course, she plays in Star Wars, so I think some people kind of took it, as, well, she's obviously joking, R2-D2 or whatever. But a lot of people got upset with her. So some people kind of stepped up to her side. For instance, the Joe Talk Show says, not being coy, but what is this hashtag woke world mad at you about? I'm looking at your tweets. Are they mad you called 2 women in the UFC fight ladies? Fill a brother in. Gina goes, they're mad because I won't put pronouns in my bio to show my support for trans lives. After months of harassing me in every way, I decided to put 3 very controversial words in my bio. Beep bop boop. I'm not against trans lives at all. They need to find less abusive representation. She has something there too. She's correct. Fascism, by the way. Don't force or bully people into doing something they don't want to do. I support trans lives. I don't care who you are, but don't force me to put anything in my bio. And of course, a couple people go, oh, can you see how some would read this as mocking? Gina fights back. I don't think trans people would like all of you trying to force a woman to put something in her bio through harassment and name-calling every day for months, such as racist, transphobic, bitch, weirdo, I hope you die, I hope you lose your career, you're fat, you're ugly. So, a couple people were pretty upset. Jaden on Twitter, just some Twitter man, no one important, I don't think. Girl, we aren't buying it. The fact that you even thought it was a good idea after outright refusing to add your pronouns to your profile seems like mockery. Well, it probably is mockery because you're trying to force somebody to do something, and that's going to not always work. So then another user goes, cis people do not get to determine what is and isn't harmful to trans people. And many trans people have said any sort of pronoun mocking jokes from cis people, no matter the intent, causes harm. Holly tweets, replace Gina Morina with a trans woman. Joe Martin, Gina Morina is ignorant AF, and I hope she gets fired. Alex, Scottish Mondo, the Gina Morina is trash saga continues. I seriously hope Disney fires her from The Mandalorian and replaces her with a new trans character. Maybe she is mocking the gender pronouns. That doesn't seem anti-trans. That seems like she's anti-being forced into doing something, so she's going to mock it. Anyway, they've hated her really ever since. But I ultimately think that the meme she shared about the Jewish people is rather mild compared to some of the comparisons conservatives have seen against them over the past few years. Her meme is also a lot less threatening of a hyperbole than some of the things we have had to deal with from the left. So, for instance, Kathy Griffin, whatever her name is, Snoop Dogg. They both have depicted President Trump either being decapitated or shot in the head. And really, they did not get too much hate for that. They definitely didn't get, I know Snoop Dogg didn't get canceled. Kathy Griffin, she got a little bit of hate for a little bit, but she feels so entitled now that she actually reposted it. But ultimately, this meme talks about the beginning of the Holocaust and how Germans were definitely influenced to hate their neighbors based on false narratives and fallacies, based on things that weren't true. And we've been seeing it with our own eyes for years that that's exactly what's been happening with Trump supporters. And there's really no arguing with that. We have plenty of facts and plenty of proof to show that. So I have a list. These were people that I just had on the top of my head that have been canceled, doxxed, banned, or attacked by the woke mob. Most of these, I would say 99% of them, were just simply conservative opinions. None of these were hate crimes at all. The Hodge twins, like the coolest conservatives on social media, they've been banned from TikTok multiple times. Blair White, a trans woman on YouTube, she's been doxxed like 6 times for being a conservative trans woman. Mario Lopez when speaking out about his concerns of young children being exposed to other sexuality, such as transgender, in schools without permission from the adults or from the parents, which I think is a very normal thing to be concerned about. The Walk Away campaign. They were banned off Facebook by Brandon Sturka. He's a gay guy who started the Walk Away campaign, which was hundreds of thousands of mostly minorities, explaining that they switched from being a Democrat to Trump supporters. And because they felt like they had been lied to by the media, literally nothing hateful about that campaign. Very loving people. Most of them were liberals. They were liberals who voted for Trump. They didn't like that. Sidney Powell. And if you don't know who Sidney Powell is before November, she's actually a very amazing prosecutor. They don't like her. The My Pillow guy. Amanda Essing. We'll go over her in a little bit. Lou Dobbs, Tucker Carlson. Milo Yiannopoulos, he can get a little edgy. President Trump, the entire app Parler, J.K. Rowling's, Ricky Gervais after he called out Hollywood for being a bunch of pedo sympathizers. Matthew McConaughey has gotten a lot of heat. Tom Brady, Rose McGowan, Candace Owens, Aunt Jemima, Jenna Marbles. Now, she got a lot of heat, I think it was last year, and I don't think she's a conservative at all. But it was because 12 years ago, she dressed up as Nicki Minaj, and somebody brought it up saying she did blackface. I mean, 10, 12 years ago, we weren't... Yeah, I don't agree with blackface, like, even if you are dressing up as someone, but the way she did it, her video was not offensive. Dave Rubin, who was a liberal and then switched to a conservative, he was on the Young Turks, I believe, and they have completely trashed his name on there ever since he switched to being a conservative. Nicole Arbour, she is another liberal, socially liberal comedian who is more conservative now due to the woke crowd that she despises. Jordan Peterson, extremely smart, one of the best speakers. I love Jordan Peterson, but he does have some conservative views. They hate him. Abraham Lincoln, Paw Patrol, and Goya Beans CEO Robert Ananu, which was hilarious because he supported President Trump, and he's like a huge minority business owner in the United States, and the left decided to cancel and boycott Goya Beans. Bunch of white people on Twitter. They really are unfathomable. But those are just some that I kind of thought of on the top of my head. Unfortunately, though, leftists feel extremely empowered the last couple years for ruining people's lives because they do have big tech and the establishment and celebrities on their side. So they do get a lot of confirmation bias. It does not mean they're correct. Now, the hypocrisy comes in big time with this because 2.5 months ago, her co-star Pedro Pascal, him, shared a Holocaust comparison comparing a photo of Jews in a cage to children in a cage. And the meme said something like, Germany then, America now. Now, when I looked into this meme, one, I think he thought those were Mexicans, but the photo was taken from Palestine. Two, if he's talking about the kids in cages at the border, that was an Obama-Biden thing, not a Trump policy, where Trump has, and while his administration, they have made these cages into actual living centers. They're not cages like you would see in these memes. They were never put in dog cages. They were usually big cages, and they were horribly treated. But they've come a long way since 2014 when they were created, which Trump was not president in 2014. But 3, apparently that photo that he used wasn't even the full picture. That was an area where they put the kids at a soup kitchen while they waited for their turn. They weren't imprisoned. They were allowed to leave that same day. So, still a sad photo, but yeah, Pedro Pascal, who shared a very unfactual comparison of the Holocaust to America Now, was not canceled. Instead, people agreed with him. The left has nearly gone total totalitarianism. I swear. If they did not have double standards, they would have none at all. So, and the left has ruined the whole essence of democracy and liberalism. They're not, the extreme leftists aren't who they claim they are. I imagine they have some self-hatred because they contradict themselves all the time. But there is absolutely no such thing as unity when it comes to the left. Their definition of unity is shut up and agree. And if you don't agree, we will ruin your life. So, January, Washington Post, pro-Trump rioters storming the Capitol bear echoes of Hitler's analogy. In January, how can America heal from the Trump era? Talked about Hitler in that one, I believe. September, article by Tom Cahoe. 13 similarities between Donald Trump and Hitler. October, Trump, America's Hitler by Jerry McCrary. Because of the whole Amy Coney Barrett situation, they felt that he was trying to take over the government. I don't know. These claims are so bizarre. Or June of 2018, AOC compares detention centers of illegal immigrants to concentration camps. Singer Linda Ronstadt comparing Trump's strict views on immigration to Nazi Germany, as well as MSNBC. I will say he did have some strict immigration views and policies, but not much more strict than any other president. Every president that in our lifetime, starting especially with Bill Clinton, has gotten strict with immigration. It's always been one of the things that they actually all agreed on until Trump, when in reality Trump agreed with them. August, a commentary, Trump takes tactics from Hitler playbook. May of 2016, Louis C.K. on Trump, the guy is Hitler. November 2016 on BBC U.S. elections, the German comparing Trump's campaign to Hitler. And I used to read these articles after, or not when I did not like Trump. I actually read a lot of these type of articles afterwards, and I realized how much they lie. And of course, and you might be thinking, well, there's so many articles that compare him, it has to be true. Well, that's what media does. That's what we call brainwashing. But there are plenty of articles, kind of like the one in the Jerusalem Post. They wrote a piece, Trump is no anti-Semite. Drawing comparisons with Hitler is just crass. Exactly. It's exactly what I say. I think it's demeaning, and I think it's a very awful comparison. And half of the time, one time I read an article, somebody sent it to me, and they're like, this is who you voted for. And I don't know what it was called, but it was one of these articles. And I said, the first two things they compare him to were false. One, they said that he called Nazis fine people. Watch the full clip. He never did that. One of the biggest lies of the Democratic Party for their campaign was that he called Nazis fine people. And not only did they take that clip out of context, they did, but they cut it perfectly to make it seem like that's what he said. He didn't say that at all.
And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did, Patrick. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated...
Another one was he had a Muslim ban. I explained in my last video, that was not a Muslim ban. So, when you're comparing him to Hitler, but your comparisons are completely false, it's hard for me to actually believe that you even know what you're talking about. But the last person I want to go over real quick is Amanda Ensing. She's another Trump supporter, model, who recently got canceled from Sephora. They canceled her contract, from what I can tell, for simply just being a Trump supporter. It seemed to me that I believe they dropped her right after she tweeted a meme showcasing the irony of the Capitol riots and the BLM riots. Pretty much saying, how was the Capitol riot any different than the riots that BLM and Antifa participated in all summer? Again, she's not wrong. So this is her tweet. She goes, "This is the left. I hate it here. America is embarrassing. Only we can riot and loot. Defund the police. Just do what the government tells you and don't ask questions." And then she compares it to the right. "Let's fight for freedom. We love the USA, defend the Constitution. We support our military and law enforcement." Well, after that, it was fair game. So Nara Banks quickly jumps on the cancellation of Amanda Ensing, and she goes, "Defund Amanda Ensing." And she kind of goes back and forth with her too. It looks like they had a little bit going on. What's interesting, and this is what I mean about the hypocrisy. They claim that they want equality. They don't want equality. They want privilege. They want reparations, and they want to make people pay for things that they never did. And for the people, these very people who claim to hate racism, they seem to be the first group of people to jump on what race someone is. And I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Amanda Ensing is half Puerto Rican. But as soon as people started canceling Amanda Ensing, people started commenting about her race. The woke left, by the way, yeah. Comparing maybe more light-skinned photo of her to yet another filtered photo of her looking much darker, calling her blackfishing. When Amanda shared a photo of tons, probably hundreds of thousands of people at the Capitol in support for Trump, some other, looks like model, wrote, "People showing up at the Capitol doesn't mean he won, just like you curling your hair and tanning your skin doesn't mean you're mixed." I think she is mixed, though. I mean, these people have no boundaries. It doesn't matter with them. And they would go after your hair, your skin color. They usually go after if you're fat or skinny. And for some reason, their feelings are very dogmatic. Like, they think their feelings are more important than facts, and that's just not the real world, and they can't handle it. But anyway, a lot of people are canceling their Disney Plus subscription, and hopefully conservatives, I hope they get their crap together. They've tried to make apps, and that didn't work, and they something needs to happen. Maybe Elon Musk will come save the day, because what's been going on is just so absolutely disgusting. And I'm sure there will be more to talk about very shortly, because it seems like every day the left gets crazier and crazier. So
the Amanda Ensing Sephora thing. Sephora's entitled to do whatever they want to do. But I think that they're bandwagon bitches. That's all. I think they're in the bandwagon culture. I think they're doing what's cool. What's cool right now is to support people on the left and hate on people on the right. And before you at me, show me one person who supports Trump that isn't called a racist. Show me one person that supports Trump that isn't called a bigot and a white supremacist. Show me one person that supports Trump that is allowed to support Trump openly that you guys don't fucking come after. Whoever's going to come after me for opposing whatever the crowd is saying, show me one person that's allowed to be openly conservative and support Trump that you don't fucking come after.